Question, just guess. In which body part does sexual arousal begin? The answer is the brain. Whether it is the feel-good chemicals that get released to tell your body to do different things, or if it is the excitement of fantasy and imagination, arousal can be for everybody and everybody if you are into that. Hi, I'm Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator, and in this episode of Sexy Sexual Health Education, we're going to be talking about body confidence for all bodies. This video is going to go a little differently. I'm going to chat a bit about body confidence, and then I'm going to give you a couple of tools and activities that you can use to strengthen a practice of body confidence and self-concept. Before we can talk about body confidence or self-concept and how that affects how we feel about ourselves and how that informs our actions, we have to name that there are factors that impact our body confidence starting from birth. When we're born, we're assigned a sex and subsequently a gender based on a very binary imagining or measurement system of things like chromosomes or reproductive organs, the binary being male or female, and if some variants of that intersex, but there actually is like a lot of variants, and I'm not a scientist. I'll link resources to explore the presumed biological sex assignment type stuff. But all of those ideas are then, once we're in the world, affirmed by all these different institutions, whether that's within our family, our cultures, media, healthcare. We're constantly being given messages about what it means to be that thing. And then those ideas are amplified by cis-centric, white supremacist, ableist, fat-phobic conceptions of what it is to be beautiful or normal. Based on our ability to align with those ideas really affects how we're perceived, how we're treated, and ultimately how we feel. I'm not actually going to really talk about the way that body confidence affects our sexual health because, as you know, I don't see any of these things as separate. Our body confidence affects our mental health, our physical health, our sexual health, our spiritual health. All of these things are interconnected. And so what I want to offer are some thoughts, considerations, and then, as I said, a tool and an activity to help you have confidence in your body and your self-concept and your being that contributes positively to those different aspects of your health. First, an activity, values inventory. Where do we get our ideas from about what is beautiful, what is healthy even? As I mentioned before, we get a lot of those ideas from the different institutions that play a role and affirm different things in our lives based on reward and punishment. All of that is socialization type stuff. No matter where you fall along that spectrum of aligning with ableism or mainstream beauty standards, I would argue that everybody has those moments of like, oh, is there something wrong with me or something different about the way that my body works? And naming the fact that those ideas, as much as they're like given to us all the time, are actually legit so arbitrary and serve capitalism and like only that. So Whether you're someone with a lot of body confidence or you're someone who struggles with their body confidence, even in moments, remember it's a continuum. Where do those ideas come from? I invite you to make a list. Make a list of all the places that you've gotten ideas about your value or your worth as it's relating to your body or how you present in the world. Or perhaps it's a disconnect. Perhaps you were assigned a sex or a gender at birth that is not authentic to you, and you're exploring what it looks like to live as your authentic self, and that's really challenging. Look at all of the places that you got those ideas from that have negatively affected your self-confidence or your self-concept, and ask yourself, do I believe those things? Do I align with those values? Are those values mine? What I imagine you'll find out is that some stuff will align. You're like, yeah, like I fuck with my culture. Like I believe that stuff. Like I really love those things. But there might be other values and other places that you've gotten these ideas from where you're like, actually, like, I don't think that there's only one shape that is sexually appealing or beautiful or functional. Or I realize that nobody's body is disabled. It's the spaces that we occupy that are disabled when they don't reflect the needs of every single person. The reason why I think this is important to discuss is because how we feel about ourselves has a huge impact on our ability and willingness and motivation to pursue different opportunities or things that we're passionate about. I think strengthening a practice of body confidence is rooted in your own values and decisions. It's going to open you up to way more opportunities to pursue what it is that you want to do. Body confidence that is self-determined can really help us to alleviate the burden of shame or stigma, and can really empower us to ask for the help or assistance that we need, whether that is like intellectual assistance or mobility assistance. It makes us more comfortable taking up space. It helps us to be more communicative and believing that even if our needs can't be met by others based on whatever their values are, that our needs and our wants are still valid and that we're still valid. As that relates to sexual pleasure or sexual confidence, the more okay we are with us, the more present we can be, the more able we are to say to someone like, my body doesn't work that way. This is how it works. And being open and available to that discussion without it having to feel separate or performance-based. There's just so much liberty in every aspect of our lives when we are in possession of our own self-concept. Okay, so we have assessed where all of our values come from, and we're like, not with that, but yes with this. Or maybe we still possess values or believe in values that don't align with what our body looks like. Or maybe we're located in a place that's not equipped to accommodate the different types of things that your body does. Or maybe the people around you are not affirming of those things. And that's hard. I don't want to pretend for a second that like, oh, just be centered within and it's enough. Like, whatever. What I can offer is a tool to help strengthen that belief and to shift those values so that they're more authentic and more aligned with what your body is and body does. And that is what I call exposure therapy. We live in such a beautiful era of access to information and people's stories that historically have been silenced or blotted out by systemic racism, fat phobia, ableism, and all those things that I mentioned before. What I would invite you to do and encourage you to do, and this is across all scenarios, so whether it's like sexy scenarios or just like somebody being dressed or undressed, look on different types of social media. I don't want to name them because then I'm immediately going to date this video, but Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is, and find people and stories with bodies like yours, whether that's your physical body or your intellectual body. Just expose yourself to people who are living in the way that you're living, because quite frankly, our mainstream narratives are very powerful and they all are quite homogenous, might not represent you. The chances are the further from that center you are, the less represented you are. And so I invite you to seek out those stories and build those pathways in your brain to like, yes, this is what confidence looks like. This is what beautiful looks like. This is what different types of ability look like. This is how diverse gender expression and sexual expression and all those things can be. I'm not alone. And create your own new normal, which is that we're all here, we're all good. The last consideration that I want to offer is that when we talk about body confidence, so often we're thinking about our physical body. But what I'll say is we are so much more than our physical body. We're also our emotional body, our spiritual body, our intellectual body. And all of those bodies have their own intelligences, their own purposes, their own strengths, their own challenges. Do the things that strengthen your confidence in your emotional body or your spiritual one or your intellectual one. As I mentioned earlier, it's a continuum. Our ideal is that we always feel like we're the one, but that's not always the case, and that's also okay. That's just the human experience. So if you find yourself like caught up in self-narratives that you don't believe, try not to beat yourself up. There's so much going on all the time that affects all those different pieces of us. We experience rejection, we lose a job, we get in a fight, we get dumped. Like, observe the thoughts your mind wishes to create about you and your space in the world, how that makes you feel. A lot of times we experience judgment of ourselves and others. Our shape or function can be value laden, and all of those things are real. You can experience discrimination and bias based on your body, whether that is in employment or in dating. I can't erase all of that in a day, but the more you practice that self-knowledge, your own values, your own principles to operate your emotional response to those things from, the stronger your practice of self-confidence will be. That's it for this episode of Sexy Sexual Health Education. Until next time.